Hey, we're here at the end of another successful CoinAgenda conference, and this is the flagship conference here in Las Vegas. And we're here at Michael Terpin's own house, and with the lovely pool setting there.
My Vegas home, my official home is in Puerto Rico, but we still have some property in Las Vegas,
okay.
where I lived for a decade.
How's Puerto Rico?
Can't wait to get back. As soon as the weather changes, that's when we go back to Puerto Rico, right before Thanksgiving. We're usually there from mid-November until pretty much close to the end of May, and then pop in a few times in the summer as well.
All right, so everything I hear about Puerto Rico being a crypto haven, or trying to become one, is that actually true?
Well, the crypto community who's moved there is trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
We're still only talking a couple hundred people out of an island of 3.5 million. So it's not like the entire island has gone crypto by any means. But Puerto Rico, and we both had Brock speak, and a fair amount of his keynote involved Puerto Rico and what he's doing down there. I, of course, was the first person to move to Puerto Rico from the Bitcoin community back in early 2016. And it's a very friendly jurisdiction as far as the U.S. goes, right? There are friendly jurisdictions in the world, obviously Malta, Singapore, the rest of the Caribbean. But if you want to go and stay inside of the United States, there are interesting things you can do in Puerto Rico. Software as a service under Act 20, and Giovanni just left, or I would have brought him on stage to talk about it. But there are ways of having your IP in a Puerto Rico corporation paying nothing to the U.S. and paying 4% to Puerto Rico. And then even if you do your crowd sale offshore, you can then bring it back onshore and pay 4%.
If someone is in crypto at the moment and they're only just hearing about this for the first time, where would they look? Where would they go first to find out more about relocating?
Well, I'll make a plug for Giovanni, our speaker, geo.tax, geo.tax. It's a very good site for talking about the different, and there's interesting opportunities that are coming up with the economic opportunity zone too, because the main reason people move to Puerto Rico from the crypto community is that they've made a lot of money on Bitcoin or on Ethereum. And you used to be able to just go from one crypto to another, just like a 1031 exchange in real estate, and not pay until you turn it into fiat dollars. As of January of this year, only real estate now qualifies. So that means if you, in the old days, bought Bitcoin at $10 and then bought Ethereum at 30 cents when Bitcoin was $600, and then bought Quantum at 50 cents and sold it, you can keep compiling your gains, and it would be, not taxable and turn you to dollars. Now, every time you make a sale, you have to pay, if you're an American citizen living in the mainland or anywhere in the world other than Puerto Rico, you have to pay on every transaction. If you buy a Bitcoin today for $6,400 and you sell it to buy Ethereum or EOS, and then you sell that, you're paying on every single. In Puerto Rico, you pay zero on short-term and long-term capital gains. So that's the main reason why people move. That's for the investor program, Act 22. They also have something called Act 20, which is for companies, where you pay 4% for any services or software company that is, software as a service. Excuse me, software as a service company, the Act 73 for software, and zero to the IRS. On the Act 73, the software, Microsoft is the largest user of that. All of Microsoft Office in North America comes through Puerto Rico.
Interesting.
Pays zero to the U.S.
And they actually have their offices down there.
They have a whole bunch of servers down there in Humacao, and they make it in Puerto Rico and export it to the rest of the country.
I see. And
if you make it in Puerto Rico and sell it outside of Puerto Rico, 4%.
It could be America's Hong Kong.
Well, it is a little bit that way, but I think there's ways of going further with that. I've sort of open sourced an idea that was proposed at a prior CoinAgenda, that the way of getting rid of the debt in Puerto Rico is to take an abandoned Air Force base and turn it into Hong Kong. It's got a 1,100-foot runway, it's got a port, pay off the debt by making it a sovereign country.
All right, then, well, when you're running for governor.
No, I've probably inhaled too much in my college years to run for governor, but that's just fine.
I don't think that matters anymore, actually.
Oh, that's true. I guess not.
Yeah, well, at least not here in Nevada.
Not in Nevada, no.
Not that I would do that kind of thing. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about CoinAgenda. So that's been running the past 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
And it was... I find your events always have a pretty good vibe to them. Everyone seems to know each other pretty well. It's a similar crowd. But you still meet lots of interesting new people and hear new things. So this year, I mean, we're in a bear market, and a lot of people they're not pivoting away just yet, but they're starting to look elsewhere.
I think the theme this year, and I often can't tell the theme until the end of the show, was the move from utility token to equity.
Right.
With the idea that security tokens will be the biggest thing, which I think we've known for a while, but that in the interim, people want to have equity and then maybe airdrops, or equity and then offshore utility tokens, because they're really, I mean, the United States has become a very unfriendly jurisdiction.
Yep.
The SEC has been very unclear, and I was at least, encouraged somewhat when a couple weeks ago they had at the Library of Congress, and one of our speakers was there for that. They said 15 congressmen to Jay Clayton. They sent a letter and said, you can't just govern by enforcement alone. We're not giving you a deadline, but you need to make some regulations, because that's what you're supposed to do, make regulations.
Yeah, right. So you said there's a shift to security tokens away from utility tokens, which I think is actually probably a good move.
I think that there's a place for utility tokens, but there was such a flood of utility tokens. It's like the .com era, right? When all of a sudden you saw you could make an IPO and have the word .com because everybody wanted the internet, everything wasn't going to be Amazon, right? When it went up, everything got treated like it was Amazon, and then when it went down, Amazon got treated like it was nothing.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, the rising tide lifts all boats, and the lowering tide shows you all the crap at the bottom of the ocean.
Still, I wouldn't have minded owning some, Amazon or Yahoo stock back in, well, maybe not Yahoo, Amazon stock back in 1999, and that would have.
Or in 2002 when it went down to like $4.
Right. Exactly. So the question is, a lot of these security tokens, do they have actual long-term value?
You mean utility tokens? Security tokens, there are none.
Right.
Yeah. The only security tokens is like a handful out there, and they don't trade. Because the problem with these security tokens right now is they're neither fish nor fowl.
Right.
I always tell people, if they can't raise money as a utility token, or they are worried about the legal compliance and they don't want to leave the United States, just raise a venture round. You don't need a security token.
Yeah.
Because right now, equity investors don't understand tokens, and token investors don't want, to put all their eggs in equity.
Right.
They, however, are increasingly looking at having some equity and some tokens as a hedge. Because, excuse me, I have a little frog in my throat.
It's all right.
Because there's a little bit moral hazard on each side. If you end up going and coming up with this great new ecosystem idea, and it's not a new platform, right? If you want to do a new utility token that's a foundation, and it's like the new Ethereum or the new EOS or whatever, great. You just put it in a nonprofit foundation like the Linux Foundation, and if you want to go and make money off of that, you don't make it exclusive. You just Ethereum consensus, Linux Foundation, Red Hat, arm's length, no issues. On the other hand, if you're using a utility token to essentially fund a for-profit company that is almost the exclusive user of that, and the money funnels from here to there, that's really where the questions are. Is the token going up in value because of the active efforts of management, or is it going up because of true scarcity? I believe that a utility token has to have 1,000 masters. I mean, it has to be usable on a global basis, not just by one company. I can't tell you the number of companies last year called me and said, yeah, I've got a winery, I want to do an ICO. No. If you want to do something for the worldwide wine industry, that would be different. But for your winery, just, take a bank loan out, raise some, I don't even think venture capital would do it, but raise some private equity or, whatever. But, utility tokens do have their place, but they're places at a smaller level than what the future of security tokens is, which is replacing the entire equities markets.
Yeah.
But not tomorrow.
So I guess probably what I was thinking is, utility tokens I find have almost zero value after the initial sale.
No,
or the initial day of start of trading.
No. Utility tokens, it depends whether they're usable afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So utility tokens, for example, Ethereum, which went out of 30 cents and went up as high as $1,400, didn't ship for a year. The Pebble Watch didn't ship for a year. Oculus Rift didn't ship for a year. It is taxable as a product. If you want to have a security, you should have a security because then you don't pay tax on it, and you have net operating loss, and you have the ability to go and create more of it, as opposed to utility tokens are really more like, I like to use the example of the gold bar versus the gold mining company. The gold mining company, there's a lot of stocks out there that mine gold. There's a lot of small cap stocks, big public stocks. They'll be somewhat affected if the price of gold goes from 1,100 to 1,500, but it's a 1-to-1 on the commodity.
Yep.
And if the head of a gold mining company gets caught embezzling, company craters. If they perform better than the market, the company goes up. Doesn't affect the price of gold at all.
Yeah.
So that's the difference really between a commodity and a security, or at least an equity. And we haven't quite become that sophisticated yet in figuring out what the difference is when you're talking, a DApp. And a DApp has the token run by the same people who are running the for-profit. And we just have to sort these things out. I mean, I think the Howey test is pretty clear. And I think that the best model is to simply, if you're creating something that you benefit from, put them in separate entities and don't take money from here and put it over here. Build a foundational infrastructure here. And if it's a good infrastructure and you have knowledge of how it was created, like Consensus versus Ethereum, buy the damn tokens.
Yeah.
Then this is a pure, just venture-backed play. Maybe someday it'll be a security token because everybody will buy venture on securities, but right now it's just a safe or a convertible debt or a priced round. And make this as a nonprofit foundation, because if you basically have it as a nonprofit foundation outside of the US, block Americans, the SEC can't come after you for anything. You're not selling to Americans, you're not subject to controlled foreign corporation because you're a nonprofit, so there are no equity owners. And you're the Ethereum Foundation. I've already said that's not a security.
Yeah. However, blocking Americans and also blocking Chinese as well, it cuts out a lot of the economy. So
well, it cuts out of the world economy. It doesn't cut out a lot of the current token buyers.
Right.
The U.S. market, I've heard, is about 4% of token buyers. And you go to the U.S. basically to get the equity side. And again, there's some interesting things you can do. So if you're talking to venture capital funds who are interested in the future of blockchain, but they're prohibited in their structure from buying tokens, and you've decided to block Americans from buying tokens, you can still sell them equity and then later, give them dividends based on the tokens in your treasury, or airdrop them tokens. There's a number of things you can do once you sell them equity.
Okay, then.
And the creative business models, it's the lawyers, the entrepreneurs, the thought leaders, and the accountants all getting together in a cabal and figuring it out. And we're still in the early days.
We are, yeah. So when people say STO, they're talking about a security token offering, is that right?
Correct.
And
there are none right now.
And there are none, yes.
Yeah.
But there are many proposed, right?
Yes, and they've all failed. They've all failed, or they've succeeded and not traded. And that's because they haven't approved any exchanges yet. Now again, there's some reasons why you could buy a security token and be happy that it's not trading. If I'm buying, for example, if I bought, the BCAP token, which was the first one, Brock, of course, was a speaker here, Blockchain Capital. They sold $10 million, they sold it out in minutes, and it was basically buying a limited partnership position in a venture capital fund. Well, it was access. You normally would not have been asked to be in there, and you could have gotten in for like $100,000, right? And anybody else who'd say put $1 million as a limited partner, they have the ability to show up at a meeting and say, I vote you do this or that or the other thing and hear my voice, but they have to wait 7 to 10 years for the payout. In a security token, you know, once the rules are clear and they get on exchanges, you can sell it immediately. Now,
Yeah.
for a couple of months after it came out, Liqui and then Ukraine actually listed it until they realized they probably weren't supposed to list it, but the price doubled.
Yeah.
So if you were very sharp and you were a non-US buyer and you bought it at $1 and you sold it at $2 and you sold half of your stock, half your amount, you basically got a free position in a top venture capital fund.
Absolutely.
So it's early days, supply and demand, but you know, I think a consensus of the show was that even if Bitcoin goes to 10 trillion, that's still a drop in the bucket compared to the global stock equities markets.
Exactly.
And they'll eventually all convert, just like, you know, it seemed unthinkable 50 years ago that the New York Stock Exchange would ever stop people running around with like pieces of paper. It's gone.
Well, a lot of people think they still do that.
They don't.
Yeah.
You know, I actually had breakfast with a friend of mine who had 3 seats on the New York Stock Exchange. This was in the early 2000s. And we're sitting there, everybody's in like incredible power suits at like 7 in the morning. And there's these young guys running around like this and that, like buy, sell, buy, buy. And they're like, oh, it's the relationships, you know, that's why this works. And you can never computerize it.
Yeah.
And he knew, he just looked and said, what a beautiful sight this is. Capitalism in the world, billions of dollars transforming. Too bad they're all out of jobs in 5 years. And he was right.
Yeah, he was.
And I think that's where we're at. It may not be 5 years, but in 20 years, why on earth would you need to, you know, have government by government by government, you know, all the overhead and 3-day trading through fiat banks when you can just do it through a security token and immediately settle in all these nations that codify the rules? I'm an investor and advisor in Polymath. I mean, that's what they do. There's a couple other tokens that are doing it as well. T0. I mean, there's a lot of innovation going in right now. We're sort of in the security token market. I feel like we were in 2014 in the utility token market.
Right.
It's like Mastercoin just came out, Ethereum's not out yet, right? So that's where we are in the STO market.
I always had a kind of theory that a utility token didn't really exist. They were just equities with another name, just to make it more legally palatable.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I can see where you would get that opinion, but again, it's the gold bar versus the gold mining stock. And just because some of them have been misused or misapplied doesn't mean that scarcity is not a business model.
Yeah.
And the only way that it really works is to have a stable supply of something really useful and a growing demand. Okay? So I'm going to take an example of something that doesn't exist yet. Okay? So let's say that I have a utility token that allows you to, let's say they're creating a new Uber, right? It allows, and there's actually a few out there trying to do this. So it allows you to go in and be a driver or be a rider, and you can also earn things by doing various tasks. So I think the perfect model is where you can not just buy and sell in a closed loop, but you can also earn loyalty points, use it as payments, earn things for micro tasks or whatever. And you know, we had one of the companies presenting at the show today, Coco, where it was basically building a system of utility token where they would, you know, let you go. And I think they were still going back and forth between utility and security. I mean, there's reasons to do both, right? You can revenue share, but I find that like if you don't have a built-in business model with a revenue stream in place, you're not going to get the dividend investors.
Yeah.
Startups don't. I mean, can you imagine going to Silicon Valley? Hey, I have a startup. Invest in me because I'm going to give you a 50% dividend when I'm selling a product that I haven't built yet.
Exactly.
Not happening, right? I mean, the things that you want to invest in a security token today is I have a real estate fund. I'm paying 15%. Guaranteed per year, and it could go up to 18%. I'll buy that. I don't care about flipping it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess that's what I was thinking of before. And yes, you're right. I was thinking more of utility tokens, where people kind of turned off the market because they realized it would go up and then down and then just stay down forever.
Well, I mean, that happened with the dot-coms too.
Yeah.
There was too much demand that everyone wanted to give the internet. Then the bubble popped. There was too much supply, and then it went down, and then they all went out of business. And then you had it's the Gartner hype scale, right? we're right now in that, what do they call it? The chasm of like.
I don't want to say in case I get it wrong, but
it's
chasm of
like
despair or something.
Yeah, it's like the chasm of despair or something, because we've passed the peak of inflated expectations.
Right.
Trough of despair.
Trough of despair.
It's called the trough of despair.
That sounds less dramatic than chasm of despair.
Yeah. Trough is still pretty bad, but the point is that you actually, it's not as deep as a chasm, you do crawl out of it. Because again, in 2002, it was much worse than it is now, right? In 2002, if you were Google and you hadn't already gotten your funding from Sequoia, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you would get laughed at if you said you had an internet company. You'd be like, oh, come on, get a real job.
Yeah, I remember it.
And yet the internet continued to grow. Yeah. I mean, I was running MarketWire at the time, and I was trying to pick up some acquisitions that I thought would be amazing, right? There was like these distressed companies that had millions of users, and they had more cash in the bank than the acquisition price was. And my board was like, well, it's just going to eventually go to zero. Nobody's ever going to buy advertising on the internet again. Obviously not true.
Yeah.
And to say that no one's ever going to use a token for loyalty or for enhanced payments is not true. Right now, we just simply had too many bad tokens, and they have to clear out.
Yeah.
And the reason they're down 95% is because there's no bankruptcies in the space. In a normal market, you wouldn't be talking about the ones who are already bankrupt. Silicon Valley, 95% of all companies fail. I mean, Gil Pinchina was the opening, fireside chat, and he said, "Hey, I bought WebVan because I thought I liked it, and I tried to sell it, and they wouldn't let me sell it because they said the price of it is less than the fee that you're going to have to be charged for the transaction cost." He bought it $50, and it was $19 for a transaction cost, and the company was worth less than that. So he said, if I look at a token, you're going to have a portfolio. He's got hundreds of companies, and if he bought dozens of tokens, and some did great and he got out when they 5x'd, and some went down, he's like, I'm looking and saying, wow, I'm only down 95% of my losers? That's a lot better than I do in most Silicon Valley investors, where I lose 100% or I get a home run.
Yeah.
And again, the 95% down, that's where it is now. I'm holding on to all my stuff that's down 95%. Most of it will probably come back double.
Yeah, this
You're
time
only down
around,
90%, right?
Yeah.
And once in a while, I want to see if the management team is still doing what they're doing. I mean, a couple of ones that were way down that I looked at were, one of them was Polymath, right? I mean, it went out at like, I think 50 cents or something like that. It went down to like, 16 cents. It's like doubled or tripled since then. I can't remember the date. But it was up as high as $2. Right. Now, at the boom, if you looked at $2 and said, oh, it's down like, sell. No. You hold because you still believe in the team and you know what they're doing. And, Warren Buffett, no fan of crypto, has said that the creation of wealth is impatient money moving to patient money. And if you've been in crypto for any time, you're patient or you're out of the game.
That's right, yeah. Everyone I know who wasn't patient is long out of here now.
Right.
Or they always tend to buy right at the peak.
Right.
Then they get impatient.
And you go back to Jeremy Grantham and all the other, market medias and all the books on investing is you buy when there's blood in the streets and you sell when your shoe shine boy is like giving you stock tips.
Yeah, I've already seen a bunch of crypto projects come back from almost certain death.
Well, the nice thing about token foundations is that if you don't have a board, you don't have control, but you also can't shut it down.
Yeah.
Unless you literally just somebody says it's not worth running the servers anymore, right? But I mean, we worked with game credits for a while, and they were like tenths of a penny, and it was sort of like an abandoned project. And a group of entrepreneurs said, we like the concept, let's buy some tokens off the open market, acquire a position, and then go to the dev team and say, hey, we'd like to go and do something different. Can we buy some more of your tokens? We'll give you a job, but we're going to do something different. And, you get someone to say yes, and price skyrocketed. It went up to a couple of bucks at one point.
Yeah, I've seen that happen many times too. It makes me wish I was an investor, or kind of glad that I'm not. Because I think I would have a heart attack if I actually had to watch the crypto market.
Well, you have to...
I'm impatient, you see.
Yeah, no, you have to sort of look and just... look at your end of the year returns
Yeah.
and like your 5-year returns and just realize you're not going to get everything right.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't get too excited when you get a 10x, and don't get too in despair when you're down 95% for something during a. Now, if you're down 95% during a bull market, it's a problem. If you're down 95% when everybody's down 95%, and the company's still doing good things, I mean, I was an advisor, still an advisor, investor in the Wax. And Wax went out at, I don't know, I think it might have been $1 for like the final price, and it went down to like 5 or 6 cents. I was telling everybody, it's like, I'm not a financial advisor, but I was just saying, I'd be buying right now. And sure enough, it's doubled since then. And it's just like, because I look and say, are they doing what they said they were going to do? Yes. Do they still have the same great team? Yes. Are they actually shipping product? And yeah, they're like the number 2 use case on Ethereum right now, and they're only out a few months. They're undervalued.
Yeah, I would say that too.
And you just, I could rattle off case after case. On the other hand, if somebody's like, gone out, they've busted all their deadlines for delivering things, I don't want to bag on MadeSafe, but that was one of the first ones that we launched. That was in 2014.
Yeah.
They've gone up and down on speculation, but 2018 they still haven't launched their mainnet. Guys, if you can't, and we're no longer working with them, but if you can't launch in 4 years, you should disclose that at first. And they're a non-U.S. company. They're a Scottish foundation. Got them a lot of press when they first launched, but I have an expectation if I'm investing in something, and I did invest in them as well, and did well because again the speculation brought them up. And who knows? In 10 years, they may take over the internet, but
they may.
Right now, the indications are they're a little behind in their promises.
They've been around for a few years longer than Bitcoin, haven't they? Before they were a crypto project.
Well, no, they had white papers on their ideas before Bitcoin, but it wasn't cryptocurrency at that point.
Yeah.
No, they were a BitAngels project. David Johnson went over there, really kind of convinced them to like move it onto crypto.
I see. All right. Well, all that is leaving me a lot more optimistic than when I came here, even though it's really hard to be pessimistic in this kind of setting. So with that, I'll let you go because I think some people want to use your pool area. And thanks a lot for talking to us.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, when's the next CoinAgenda?
Oh yeah. So next CoinAgenda, we're going to do something a little different this year at CES. So last year we did something called the CoinAgenda Summit. We tried to jam 3 days of content into 1 day, and then we also do the day after we do, for the 4th year, we put together the blockchain content for Consumer Electronics Show. And so this year we're going to do something called the CoinAgenda Showcase.
Okay.
And so it's going to be 3 days. The first day is going to be a media showcase. We actually did a little bit of that last year as part of our opening party where we took over the Oriole. We had a bunch of reporters come in because you have the big CES media CS Unveiled, and they have like 5,000 reporters, and they then walk out at the end of Mandalay Bay, and we just rented out the nicest restaurant there and just shuffled them all in if they were interested in blockchain.
Very good.
So this year we're going to probably end up holding it here because you have a nice big home you can hold parties in. That
here at this house.
At this house.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Well, people like to sort of see. This was built by Jay Sarno, who built Caesars many years ago, and
I would certainly come to a conference here.
And it's not a conference. Because I can't do commercial activities here, but I can certainly hold a party, an after party for my own thing. So it'll be a media showcase. The rest of the conference is then going to be at a hotel TBD the next day, and it's not going to be a CoinAgenda. It's going to probably be a couple of key speakers. And then we're going to do a token match. The token match is a new brand that we came up with this last year, where it's free to the investors, and then we go and charge money and mainly tokens to companies that we pick. So at CoinAgenda, everybody comes and we have judges pick the winners at the end of the day, and it's media and thought leaders, etc. And part of it is sort of having these 10-minute pitches. Token match is really more about investors rolling up their sleeves, doing due diligence, and it's security tokens, it's ICOs, it's STOs, it's a mix. And that'll be sort of the middle day, the day before CES starts. And then we won't have an after party because CES will be in full bloom at that point. And then the show floor opens the next day. And so those three are going to be sort of like 3 mini events that we're going to call CoinAgenda showcase.
I see, right. And you
And
said,
then, of course, Puerto Rico will be the next 3-day CoinAgenda.
oh yeah, all right. Well, I definitely want to come to
It'll
that
be
one.
our third, our third event in Puerto Rico. It's called CoinAgenda Caribbean.
Nice.
And it'll be in March. I was originally going to do it 15th to 17th, but I'm looking now, and apparently they may conflict against Asia FinTech Week in Hong Kong, and so we may do it the 1st to 3rd, but it'll be in the early part of May, and I'm coordinating with 2 other events to make another Puerto Rico Blockchain Week. So Brock does Restart Week, where he goes out and does a lot of things about Puerto Rico lifestyle and teaching people on the island about blockchain, and he's really had a great impact there. And then Blockchain Unbound has also done a conference, and we want to all coordinate dates to have a a Puerto Rico Blockchain Week. Last year, the first Puerto Rico Blockchain Week, we sold out every hotel on the island and every Airbnb. There were literally people who couldn't get planes into the island, so it had a great response. We're going to hope for another one this year. But if you want to check out Puerto Rico, that's the time to come.
All right, I'll mark that in my calendar. Okay, Michael, thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you, John.